Today we're making one of my all-time favorite recipes, spicy noodle stir fry with salt and pepper tofu. I'm gonna walk you through the exact tips and tricks you can use to make a better than restaurant quality stir fry. And you can find the written recipe over at NYT Cooking, where I am now a contributor. I'll share later in the video how you can access this recipe for free, but for now, let's get cooking. We're gonna start off with some pretty classic aromatics from Cantonese cooking: garlic, ginger, and scallions. Finely chop 4 garlic cloves. For the scallions, go ahead and trim any of the tops that might be bruised or wilted. From there, we'll chop off these roots, we don't need those, and thinly slice the entire scallion. And be sure to keep the dark green tops separate because we'll use those towards the end of the dish. And for your knob of ginger, you first want to peel it. A spoon does the trick pretty well. For this recipe, we're going to slice the ginger into matchsticks. So slice it into wide planks first, then stack them on top of one another, and from here you can slice them into little slivers. It is really important to prep everything ahead of time because when you're making a stir fry, everything moves super quickly. You're cooking at high heat, so you really don't have time to multitask. Moving on to our vegetable, we've got some beautiful green beans today. We're just gonna trim and halve them. Cut off the ends, and if you have long green beans, cut those in half, but smaller ones you can keep whole. Now, of course, you can use a mix of vegetables, but I personally think the best tasting stir fries have just 1, maybe 2 vegetables, because then you can really appreciate and enjoy that flavor instead of it getting lost in everything else. And you can optimize the cook time for that particular vegetable so you get the best texture instead of trying to optimize for several different vegetables, which is really hard. Every stir fry needs a good stir fry sauce, and this one requires just 5 ingredients, 1 minute of your time, and you can make it in advance and store it in the fridge for up to a week. So a lot of things going for it. We're gonna start with our soy sauce, and we need 3.5 tablespoons of that. It sounds like a lot, but this sauce is going to season our tofu, our vegetables, and our noodles, so it needs to be really bold. And that brings me to my next tip for a really great stir fry. Your sauce needs to be super flavorful, but it also needs to be balanced. So we've got our savory saltiness here. Now we need to balance it with some acidity and sweetness. For our sweetness, we're gonna use some brown sugar. It adds that nice caramelly molasses flavor. And for the acidity, we've got some Shaoxing wine. This is a very popular Chinese cooking wine that's made by fermenting glutinous rice. I have made this stir fry without Shaoxing wine. I've tried to shortcut it, and it's definitely not the same. It doesn't have the same complexity of flavor and depth and body. You can buy this online, or if you have an Asian grocery store, this will go for like $4 or $5, so it's really inexpensive. I mentioned earlier that this is a spicy stir fry. Today I've got some chili garlic sauce. You can use any unsweetened chili sauce you like. I'm using 2 tablespoons because I like it quite spicy, but if you want just a little bit of heat, you could use a teaspoon or 2. And finally, we need 3 tablespoons of vegetable broth. If you have it lying in your fridge or your freezer as leftovers, if not, you can just use water. And that is it. Just give it a nice shake. We've got our vegetables and aromatics, we've got our sauce, now we need our protein. And today I've got a block of extra firm tofu, and you can certainly use this right out of the package, but if you want to take this tofu over the top, I really recommend freezing and then defrosting the tofu. As you can see from this side-by-side comparison, the previously frozen and defrosted tofu has these porous, spongy holes, and that allows the tofu to absorb more of the stir-fry sauce and the flavors of everything you cook it with, and in my experience, the tofu tends to get a bit crispier. By the way, freezing tofu is actually quite simple. Just add the tofu and its water to a freezer-safe container, or you can even freeze the entire package. When you're ready to defrost it, you can transfer it to the fridge. It'll take a day or 2. So to speed up that process, I leave the tofu block on an aluminum sheet pan for a couple of hours, and it thaws a lot quicker that way. Like a regular block of tofu, there is some excess water in here that we need to get out, but this is quite sturdy compared to regular tofu, so we can just use our hands to squeeze out the moisture instead of pressing it. Once you have a nice amount of water squeezed out, go ahead and slice the block in half lengthwise. And instead of slicing the tofu into your standard cubes, I'm going to be slicing it into rectangles or squares about 1/3 of an inch thick. There's nothing wrong with cubes necessarily, but these tofu squares or rectangles, they have a greater surface area relative to their volume, and that means they're going to crisp up faster. And we only need to cook them on 2 sides, whereas with the cube, they have 6 even sides. It's kind of annoying to flip them all. Once you have your tofu nicely arranged in a little grid, I like to just gently pat it dry a couple more times in case there's any excess water still there. We're making a variation of salt and pepper tofu, which is one of my favorite Chinese dishes. So for our seasoning blend, of course we need some salt. And the pepper that's traditionally used is white pepper. It's pungent yet fruity, and it's so lovely here. Half teaspoon of onion powder, quarter teaspoon of garlic powder. And this ingredient is optional, but I really love adding some Chinese 5-spice powder to my blend. It just adds such a fun, unique flavor. I could live in this bottle. It smells so good. And then 3 tablespoons of arrowroot powder or cornstarch or cornstarch to give our tofu just a little help in the crisping up department. To make it easy to season our tofu without roughing it up in a bowl, I like to add the seasoning blend to a fine mesh sieve and then dust it right on top of the tofu. And you can see these porous holes are really going to absorb all of this flavor. All right, I'm gonna clear off my workspace, but then we are ready to start cooking. I've got my wok here today, but if you don't have one, you can just use a large nonstick skillet. To ensure that your food doesn't stick in a wok, it's important to heat the pan dry first, and only once you start to see these little wisps of smoke, that's when it's time to add your oil. And try to get it up the sides as well. I'm gonna turn down the heat to medium just because tofu is kind of delicate and I don't want it to burn. Add the tofu a few pieces at a time, that way you can spread them out without them overlapping. A wok this size should just fit this amount of tofu. You might have to arrange it a little bit, but if your wok is significantly smaller or your tofu block is bigger, you'll need to do this in 2 batches. Try to shake the pan every minute or so, and I tend to check around 3 to 4 minutes just to ensure it's not burning. And the pieces in the center are definitely gonna cook faster because they're under a more concentrated source of heat, so I like to start checking those a bit sooner than everything else. A small or offset spatula like this is very helpful for checking and flipping the tofu. A little charring like this is fine, but if you see a lot, definitely lower the heat. After 5 or 6 minutes, the rest of the pieces should be ready to flip too. The second side needs only about 3-ish minutes, and again, the center pieces are going to cook faster, so keep an eye on those so they don't burn. I'm adding these to a paper towel lined plate just to absorb any excess oil. Now for our noodles, any noodle of a medium thickness is fine. This is 6 ounces of dried udon noodles. And all I'm gonna do is add the noodles to a saucepan of boiling water. Did not know that was gonna happen. And cook them according to the package instructions. I like to toss the noodles with a little bit of toasted sesame oil. It adds great flavor and it will prevent the noodles from clumping as they rest. All right, all that's left now is to cook our green beans and assemble our dish. So you're gonna get your wok back over high heat, and by now you know how to properly preheat it so it doesn't stick. You can tell if there are wisps of smoke by getting eye level. That's why I like to hang out down here. Add in the green beans. Tiny pinch of salt, just because we already have quite a bit of salt or soy sauce in our stir-fry sauce. And we're gonna cook this undisturbed for a minute so they can start to char. After you toss them around, go ahead and cook them undisturbed again for 90 seconds. And when you're making a stir fry, it's always easiest to use a quick cooking vegetable like this, or bell peppers or snap peas. Of course, you can use sturdier vegetables like carrots or cauliflower, but that typically requires you to blanch those in advance, so if you want to cut out a step, a quick cooking vegetable is your best friend. You can add our aromatics from earlier, the garlic, ginger, and scallions. It's starting to smell amazing. Oh my gosh, I cannot tell you. Now it's time for our stir-fry sauce. You might want to stand back because it will sizzle. By the way, if you wanted to take a couple shortcuts in this recipe, you could skip the ginger, maybe the scallions, but keep the garlic. And instead of green beans, which require a little bit of prep, you could buy some pre-trimmed snap peas. Just giving you some options in case you want to save a few minutes. After 2 minutes, you'll notice that the sauce has started to thicken a little bit, even though there's no thickening agent. And we can kill the heat now. And we're going to add in our noodles. Get in there with some tongs and make sure you get the noodles coated in the sauce. those scallion greens from earlier. I also like to add some fresh chopped cilantro. In general, I like to finish my stir fries with a lot of fresh greenness to balance the rich savoriness. But if you don't like cilantro or you just want to stick with scallions, that's fine too. Some roasted sesame seeds for crunch. White or black is fine. I like black just for color. We're gonna add back our fried tofu. And our defrosted tofu is so primed to absorb all of the delicious flavor from the stir fry sauce and the sauteed aromatics. It's gonna be so good. This is one of the best things I've ever made. It's spicy, it's savory, it's salty, it's all the good things at once. You can get the written recipe at NYT Cooking. I've left a gift link in the description box so you can get it for free, or you can scan this QR code. Thanks so much for watching. Bye!